Blue Horse Theatre 2025.
Welcome, my friends, to the Blue Horse Theatre. Now playing The History of Warren County, Ohio by W. H. Beers and Company, year 1882. May 1st, 1803. The birthday of Warren County, Ohio. Warren County was established by an act of the Ohio General Assembly on March 24th, 1803, with the legislation taking effect on May 1st of the same year. The county was carved out of the larger Hamilton County, reflecting the state's efforts to create more manageable administrative regions as the population grew. The county was named in honor of General Dr. Joseph Warren, a Revolutionary War hero who died at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Let's take a look at Beer's History of Warren County from 1882, which was written nearly 80 years later than Warren County's formation. The act organizing Warren County took effect May 1st, 1803. The legislature had elected 3 associate judges and fixed a temporary seat of justice. The first official business of the new county was transacted at a meeting of the associate judges, William James, Jacob D. Lowe, and Ignatius Brown, at the house of Ephraim Hathaway. The pioneer judges of Warren County, Ohio. This is the final judge in the series of the first associate judges of Warren County, Ohio. Judge William James, Judge Jacob Derrick Lowe, and now introducing Judge Ignatius Brown. Let's take a look at the archives of the Aline Stevenson Digital Newspaper Project, where old copies of the Western Star have been digitized. The Western Star, the herald of a noisy world, Lebanon, Ohio, June 6, 1834. Obituary of Ignatius Brown. Departed this life on Tuesday morning the 3rd instant, from debility induced by a severe attack of the influenza, some 18 months ago, Ignatius Brown, long a resident of this town and county. Judge Brown was born in the Providence, now state of Maryland, in the year 1768, and brought to the West in early infancy by his parents, who settled in Brownsville on the Monongahela River, where and in the vicinity of which he was educated and resided until manhood and marriage, after which he removed to the state of Kentucky, where he remained some years. He afterwards settled in the town of Deerfield. From thence he removed to Lebanon, where and in the neighborhood thereof he continued to the day of his death. Shortly after his removal to the west side of Ohio, he was appointed by Governor St. Clair a justice of the peace and judge of the quarter session for the then large county of Hamilton. When we became a separate county, he was, by the first Ohio legislature, appointed associate judge, which office he has, by repeated reappointments held nearly the whole time since. Few men have lived to see the great change in the Western country that has been seen by Judge Brown, When his parents settled in Brownsville, as it has since been named from his ancestors, it was a small British garrison as a kind of outpost to Fort Pitt, now Pittsburgh, where a regiment was stationed. The whole western country from the Allegheny to the Rocky Mountains was then an unbroken wilderness, with the exception of Redstone Fort near Brownsville and Fort Pitt. Kentucky itself was then, and several years afterwards, without a single white inhabitant. He has lived to see the dense forests of Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois felled by the enterprising hands of the hardy pioneers, and in their stead spring up the populous states, cities, towns, and villages of the West. With what credit he discharged the duties of the various offices he held is perhaps best illustrated by referring to his repeated appointments, and these emanating from different sources, executive and legislative. He has left a family of children and grandchildren to feel and lament his loss, besides numerous friends and acquaintances, which a long residence, an unassuming demeanour, and almost constant official intercourse had drawn around him. Western Star, 6th of June, 1834. We find in Beers, History of Warren County, on page 712 that
Ignatius Brown, who was for 3 terms an associate judge of Warren County, was an early settler at Deerfield, and he is said to have taught the first school at that place.
Freeport, Oregon Post Office. At what time this place took the name of Freeport is not known, but in 1802 or 1803, Nebo Gaunt settled there and built a mill, which passed to the ownership of Judge Ignatius Brown and David Brown, and was known as Gaunt's Mill and Brown's Mill till probably about 1820, when it assumed the name of Freeport. In connection with the mill, David Brown built a paint mill for he manufacture of Spanish brown and its kindred shades, the material for which was procured from some point above the mill. Daniel Kinsey built a carding mill in 1816, and about the same time, a cotton factory was built by a company, the latter being burned in 1818. How long the carding mill was operated after the burning of the cotton mill is not known. James Van Horn had a blacksmith and auger factory, and Elijah or Elisha Vance had a pottery about 1820. Mark Armitage, a farmer, had an auger factory nearby. A large frame was erected in 1844 for Charles Nixon for a paper mill by William H. Hamilton and Sons. But not being used for that purpose, the machinery for a barrel factory was put up and operated for some time. In 1845, a post office was established, and an office of the same name being in the north of the state, the name of Oregon was substituted. The railroad company refused to change the name of their station. Hence, it is Oregon Post Office and Freeport Station. The old mill was burned December 25, 1852, by careless use of firecrackers. The barrel factory was used by Daniel Terry as a grain warehouse for some time, and in 1854, Stubbs and Sherwood put the works of the White Hill Mill in it, converting it into a flour mill, which is at this time in operation, now being owned by Isaac Stubbs Jr. The railroad, which was constructed in 1844, built a woodshed 195 by 40, which is now taken away. The bridge over the river was built in about 1856 by D. Bennett at the expense of the county, assisted by private subscriptions. There are at present in the village 1 flouring mill, 1 sawmill, 2 general stores, 2 blacksmith shops, 1 wagon shop, express office and post office, United Brethren Church and Public School, Thomas C. Kersey and George W. Henderson, physicians, and 20 families. In connection with the village of Freeport, as it is near that station, and at the old settlement of Mather's Mill, 1.5 miles below, there was built in 1881 by W. Ingraham a steam sawmill of large capacity for custom and general work. The railroad officials have built a side, track to it, and considerable quantities of sawed lumber are shipped from that point. Here we are at the Lebanon Cemetery in Lebanon, Ohio, Warren County. The Brown Family Monument. Ignatius Brown, born on the 1st of December 1768, died on the 3rd of June 1834. He lived 65 years, 6 months, 2 days. While facing the Ignatius Brown inscription, and then by going around to the right side of the monument, one can see that this is blank. On the opposite side of Judge Brown's inscription, we see Elizabeth, the wife of Ignatius Brown. Elizabeth was born on the 14th of February in 1770. She lived 57 years, 5 months, 28 days. She died on the 11th of August, 1827. On the left side of Judge Brown's inscription, we see Asahel, the son of Ignatius Brown. Asahel was born on the 19th of March, 1794. He died on the 11th of September, 1846. He lived 52 years, 5 months, 23 days. He is listed as county recorder from 1823 until 1832 on page 421 in Beer's History of Warren County. Orpha Brown was Ignatius Brown's daughter. The Circleville Democrat and Watchman, May 26, 1876.
At her residence in this place of the 17th instant, Mrs. Orpha B. Denny, consort of W.H.P. Denny, editor of the Wilmington Journal. She was born near Lebanon, Warren County, Ohio, on the 10th of July, 1813. She was the daughter of the late Judge Ignatius Brown and was joined in marriage on the 23rd of April, 1836. She united with the church at Lebanon in February 1838 and has ever since remained steadfast in her early faith. She never, during her whole life, wavered or doubted in her belief of the truth of the Christian religion. She is, of course, best known and appreciated by her immediate relatives and friends, but all of these will testify to her rare excellence as a daughter, sister, wife, mother, neighbor, and friend. In all these relations she could not be excelled. She fought the good fight, kept the faith, and has gone to her long and peaceful rest. It may well be said of her, "Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord." Death to her is a great blessing, especially when we consider the nature of her late affliction. The funeral services took place at Wilmington, Wednesday the 17th at 4 o'clock, and her remains were interred at Lebanon the day following. The Circleville Democrat and Watchman, Circleville, Ohio, 1876, May 26th, page 3.
The pioneer judges of Warren County, Judge William James, Judge Jacob Derrick Lowe, and this has been Judge Ignatius Brown. This is the last of the Pioneer Judge series. friends and fellow historians, thank you for watching and see you next time. This has been Blue Horse Theatre.
Blue Horse Theatre 2025.